eVTOL Weekly. Do you know what? I don't even have to introduce us as eVTOL Weekly. eVTOL Weekly, eVTOL Fan Club. This is Liam and Mark. Mark, my guy, we had a big week this week. We have spoken to Brandon Ramson, who is the CEO of Horizon Aircraft. We got a lot of really good information. Guys, anyone that doesn't know Horizon Aircraft, we're around a 70 million market cap company. So we are, a micro. I don't usually invest in them, in micro market caps, but you know what? This project's just too exciting. Mark, I want to dive straight into it. How did you feel? We need to break it down. How did you feel after that interview with a CEO from the NASDAQ?
I'm really thankful that Brandon came on. This is the second time. I've been involved with, you guys for just the last couple of months, and it was his first interview that really got me involved in your channel. So just following him, so being able to speak to Brandon was fantastic. They have everything to lose, I think is the best way to put it. They've got momentum they've got the momentum with their concept demonstrator. They've proved that. Now they're going into the next phase. Brandon clearly stated that they've got runway to get to that. They're hiring. I think good indicators to look at is they're hiring people, and you're not going to go out and search for this kind of talent if you're not for real. So they're pulling in fantastic talent within the industry, which is going to get them to the next phase of building their concept, their full scale technology demonstrator. So, and then from that, if that demonstrator works, right now, Joby and ACHR and all these other eVTOL companies, that's what they're flying right now. Is they're flying their technology demonstrators or their concept demonstrators, however you want to name it. It's just Joby that has come out and says, yes, we have a conformed aircraft that we're going towards TC. So they're still in the beginning stages, but like you said, you look at their market cap, you look at the potential investment. I think they're a league of their own. It's not an eVTOL. I mean, it's an HEVTOL, I guess you could call it, because it is hybrid. But it's a big airplane. You look at the size of this thing and you look at the use case of what they want to do, all weather flying. That opens up a lot more opportunities for direct entry into military program of records. Brandon said they've spoken to the military. Brandon's got a military background. I mean, there's a lot of good foundation, really good foundation with HOVR. And so, yeah, I think, you had asked the question, Brandon, if you got another $50 million, what are you going to do with it? And yeah. He was pretty pragmatic. He says, well, if I have another 50 million, I'm going to put that into development, and I'm going to move the schedule to the left a little bit. We'll be able to speed things up. So that just says if other investors come along and they can see what this is and what it can be, then it's only going to, I think, make them far more. It's just going to add to the building blocks of this program they're building right now.
What strikes me with Brandon every single time we interview him is how open and honest he is, how he is the same person off camera as he is on camera. Mm-hmm. He was quite open about, look, they have $17 million in cash, and that's what really jumped out to me and worried me before we interviewed him, is that cash run. He is confident it will last 18 months. He has instilled in us that, look, he will target every option necessary to not do a cash raise that harms investors. He seems to have his eye on the prize. Guys, the full-scale model is the Cavorite X7, but they're currently running the Cavorite 5, which they're 50% model. I think yourself, Mark, asked the question, would they ever use this drone? Would they sell it to the likes of the Department of Defense or likes of reconnaissance missions? He said the drone can lift between 110 to 150 pounds. It wouldn't be a drone they'd use for going around scouting the place, but for lifting objects from A to B that need to be there on a fast, reliable trajectory, it's a better option than a helicopter. He said, what was it, 85% of helicopters? What was that about 85%?
I thought he said 65% are A to B.
Okay.
Which basically means you're going from a landing pad to another landing pad where there is not an airport involved in the flight evolution. I thought he said 65%, but he may have said 85.
No, 65 sounds good. Another thing that really jumped out to me, one of the guys wanted the question asked, are they able to sell to the US? Would they ever move to the likes of the US? Is Canada beneficial? He was pretty direct with his answer. It was a definite yes. They can sell to the US. They're already talking to the US. Can they sell to the US Department of Defense? They said they've already won parts of contracts with them. Look, I think he knocked it out of the park. I know he's not a big man for talking about his competitors. I think he is so razor focused on what Horizon is doing, what you want to see from your CEO. You don't want to see them firing shots. But I think we can sort of take an analysis of it that, look, if you look at Horizon, they're doing something completely different than Archer and Joby. They have so much more use cases. When you look at the use case for Archer and Joby, you're looking at the likes your air taxi network. It's in between your cities.
It's real short hop, 15 minutes right now.
And then you have to build that infrastructure for your S4 or your Midnight where you can have your charging stations. The likes of the Cavra X7 can take off. It recharges itself. Because it's a hybrid, it recharges itself en route. Another thing was the Zero Avia partnership. It seems like they're not heavily focused on their hydrogen. They were more speaking to Zero Avia, learning the concept so they can learn in-house to see if it's something that benefits them going forward. What was your biggest takeaway from the interview itself?
Well, and there's quite a few. I want to comment. I want to backtrack real quick though. The Zero Avia, his commentary on teaming with Zero Avia, he basically came out and just said, we're gonna explore every avenue. Of course, they're going with a jet fuel, a PT6 engine that's going to run their batteries, recharge, and then get them through borne flight. But what I think could happen is if there was a big push in a military, say the military comes out and says, all right, we want to do a program of record and we're going to do requests for proposals for a hydrogen powered eVTOL. Them then having that relationship immediately says, okay, we can immediately transition into that if we had to. So that's what I took from that.
From your experience in aviation, how easy is it to transition your whole engine really to a full hybrid model or full hydrogen model or so?
If it's for military, you can do it quite quickly. If it's for if it were for civilian use, where you're going to go through a type certification program, it's a lot more difficult. But if for some reason they did go hydrogen, or they offered two packages, you offered one that was what Zero Avia offers with their hydrogen system, or you went what they're currently designing, you could then support two different customers with that too. So,
guys, I
Let
want,
me think about my biggest take of what of the
yeah,
interview. So
guys, I loved our first interview with Brandon. It sort of gave us an introduction to the company. Look, me and Reese done an attempt of doing a deep dive into them. We were very, I don't know, naive, should I say, when we were doing a deep dive into them. There wasn't a lot of information out with them, and I'm not going to name his name because it's pretty hard to find him. But their investor relations did reach out to us and offered us an interview with Brandon originally. Look, we done the best we could, but look, we are not absolute specialists in this sector. We are more or less fanatics or fans. We're obsessed. But guys, you need to show your appreciation for Mark. Mark works in the aviation industry. He is a private pilot. And I think the level of detail you were able to pull out of Brandon was unbelievable. For any of the guys that understand the aviation industry, I think they'd be heavily appreciative of you, Mark. So thank you for everything you've done on that.
my pleasure. Yeah, it's funny because before we did the interview, I wrote down an entire list of a lot more in the weeds engineering questions.
Yeah.
Than what we got to, and while we were going through the interview, I'm like, and no, we don't want to get that far down in the weeds. Honestly, my biggest take of the interview, my biggest takeaway is it's more of just an affirmation of what I suspected. Everything that they're not inventing any technologies. They're being very pragmatic about this is how we're going to get the Cavalry X7 to market, and it's going to be common off the shelf, known components, known items. He referenced their motors that they're going to use. So when you're doing something like that, you can get to market. You can design things fairly quickly. Second, he said they're already building up their systems integration lab, and what that means, he says, like you can go out into the hangar and you can see all the motors on a test stand, and you can see the actuators on a test stand, and you can see the moving. How their doors are going to, or I don't know if you call it doors or however they want to refer to it as. All of that stuff is now currently being built up and ran already in a test stand. So, at the end of the day, okay, we need to design an airframe, and that's what they need to do. They need to get designers in, design an airframe, and then start packaging this. Start putting the package together. By the time the airframe's designed and built, they'll have all the data they need on how everything works together, from a propulsion system, from a aircraft management system, most likely just their human factors. All of that will already be figured out in simulators, and they will have run most of their equipment through testing. They'll know what kind of lift their fans are going to be able to produce because they will have ran them already in dynos or on test stands. So they're I think that in another thing too, we had discussed it. They're getting and Brandon said it. He's getting in at kind of the second quarter of this phase. You had Joby and ACHR. You had Joby, way pre-gaming.
The trenches.
Yeah, in the trenches. And then, but when things really started taking off about 5 years ago, I think if they would have showed up, at the same time, people would have been like, I don't know about this. But now this market's getting a lot of attention. So I think that they're in a really good position to really woo investors and hopefully not have to dilute shares. And I think now, and this isn't investment advice, but if at $1.50 to $1.80, if this program in a couple of years goes up to $10, well, then you're sitting in that position, you're gonna be like, okay, go ahead and dilute some shares. I'll accept that. And I think that a lot of investors do accept that, especially when you're the early investors in. It's like, all right, I'm in, and I'm in for the long haul, as long as you're for real. So I think that, and then secondly is just Brandon. Brandon being a military pilot, even though he was trained, he went to engineering school, and he has an engineering background. He spent most of his life, like he said, writing attack plans or coalition plans with NATO. So he understands the operational use, and I would see Brandon being the guy to be like, all right, I'm going to get in the back of this thing for first flight, and I'm going for a ride, because he's going to believe in the product, and he's just he's much different than Joby, who is just a straight up engineer, and he's much different from Adam, because Adam is just, I don't know if Adam has an engineering background or not, but but Adam definitely is that salesman, businessman. I'm gonna create an industry, as where Brandon is I'm the guy that knows exactly who needs this aircraft, and we're gonna build this for those people. So that's some of my big takeaways.
I don't know, did he say it to us in the stream or was it pre-stream, but one thing that made me incredibly bullish was when he said, I want one of these for myself.
Yeah.
The fact that he's willing to put his own family in like that, it really shows he's not just, I don't know, creating a concept, he is creating a product he believes in. I need to jump into the comments just because they're starting to build up here.
Yeah, let's answer some comments.
So first of all, we had Dylan. If I can't join, nothing better than a ride home than from eVTOL. So, guys, make sure to follow Dylan on X. He's starting to pump out some really nice content in the whole eVTOL space. We used to call him the biggest Archer bull, but at this stage now, I just think he's the biggest eVTOL bull. He covers absolutely everything when it comes to the eVTOL industry. But do you know what? Yeah, he's not only such a hard worker, he is such a nice guy. Look, I couldn't work with Dylan or Mark if they weren't nice people. These guys I now class my friends, honestly. I speak to these more than I speak to my own missus. So, you need to be able to get on with them. Vaseline C says, come on, Dylan, floor it, lol. You need an eVTOL, my guy. Dylan says, of course, Vast. I have to get some gas too, lol. Joel, don't hold any eVTOL shares. I'll have to take a look. Joby looked interesting a couple of years ago, but was busy buying Rocket Lab instead at that time. A big shout out. You've had some really nice gains in Rocket Lab at the moment. Joby is still looking at a nice enough price. I do have that feeling it is going to come down. $11-12 range. How are you feeling, Mark?
Well, as I said on the last, I think a week ago, I was playing the trader game and took a bit of a loss on Joby after they announced their airport to airport. But then I jumped back out, and then I jumped back in at 15 because I was just like, I don't know. So, but I didn't take as big a position. If Joby continues to come down, I'm going to be adding. Right now, I'm just holding. If Joby continues to come down, especially if Joby gets into the 11-10 range, I'm going to be loading up, because I think you're only going to see an increase in news coming out of Joby as they start marching through their test program and their tech certification program. You're only going to see more positive news coming out. And I also think it's interesting how Joby and Rocket Lab seem to be. I'm almost drawing parallels between the two, because Rocket Lab is like, all right, we've got this next big spot to get to the pad and launch, and then and Joby, and I think they're both going to happen around the same time, and like next year is going to be a really exciting year for both of them. And I think unless there's some event that happens in their test program, which I don't think there will be, I think you listen to Joe Ben in the conference call they had. He seemed excited about, listen, this is the final test where we just got to get through TC, and then we're going to be delivering aircraft. So, yeah, I mean, of course, anything below 10 is a gift, in my opinion. Anything below 10 at this point is a gift. And I'll say that for Archer as well. Like Archer right now is below 10. I don't think, I think Archer could come out and just say, hey, we're going to be delayed because maybe our rotor system, we need to develop a 4-bladed rotor or something. They may have to come out with a little bit more transparency if they did. Not saying they will. And even at that, if the stock went down to 7 or 8, all of these companies are going to be a success.
Well, getting back to that with the likes of Archer, and you can even throw Joby into the mix there with their transition. The likes of with Horizon, Brandon spoke about the fact of the in-wing fan system and how easy it is to transition VTOL into CTOL. I don't know. This whole transition thing seems to be an ongoing problem with Archer. Yes. Are they at this stage going back to the drawing board?
No, I don't think they're at that stage. I think Archer has gotten every bit of information that they could, and Archer has proved that they can transition, and they can. So that's not a problem. I think Archer, this is just my conjecture, but I think Archer is going to redesign their aft fans that don't rotate, and they're going to because Adam came out and said we're going with a 4-bladed fan, and I would not be surprised if they're kind of going back to the design board on that system, so that it'll not be a solid hub. The fans, when they go into wingborne flight, one of them will rotate.
Okay.
Similar to what you see with is it Eve?
Yeah.
So just for aerodynamic purposes. That's my opinion, at least. I could be wrong. So it's not going back to the drawing board. I think if Archer wanted to, they could convert, and with a pilot in the loop and all that stuff. But they may just be doing a bit of redesign to, all right, let's incorporate that. Or who knows, maybe they are going to come out with just a 4-bladed prop, and the 4-bladed prop continues to spin,
Yeah.
So One, it's interesting. I was thinking about it, and this is my aerospace engineering brain.
Yeah.
Why don't these companies actually have their rear-facing prop instead of being vertical and articulating this way?
Yeah.
Why doesn't it hang down and articulate this way? Because then it's a pusher. So
and great lift.
Yeah. So one would do this, and one would be pulling, and the other one would be pushing. I haven't figured that one out, because
is it more efficient for it to pull up than it is to push down? No,
you can have no. You could design, like there are airplanes. For example, the HOVR's aircraft, that propeller is called a pusher prop. It's not pulling the airplane through the air; it's pushing it through the air. So yeah, because then if Archer were to do that, say this is the forward, this is the aft. If their forward were to articulate this way, and their aft articulates this way, one is pulling through the air and the other one's pushing, and then you don't have drag. They're both systems are contributing to your forward thrust. I'm like, come on, guys.
Archer, come here, hire Mark.
Let's maybe that's design change too, but I don't understand why any of these companies aren't doing that. It's so one is articulating vertically, have the other one articulate downward in HOVR.
you watch them come out with this now, and we can clip you there, and we'll be like, yeah, man,
exactly.
insider information here.
No.
Dylan says, Joel, I think you have made the right choice. Way to be early, Rocket Lab. Joel says, we'll read up on HOVR tonight. Buying EOSC right now, battery tech. So looking for a third play to add to my portfolio. Whoa, my God. Are you only Rocket Lab at the moment? Or Rocket Lab and you've only 2 stocks? Risky. Like it, but risky, bro.
Yeah.
Mary, big shout out. I watched the interview. You guys were great and always great content. Always a benefit of subscribing to the Hustle Brothers. And that's it, guys. Make sure to bang the subscribe button. We have not received the HOVR merch yet. Well, I haven't received mine. If you received yours yet, you'll probably get yours first,
No,
Mark.
I have not.
No.
Yeah, keep an eye out.
But when I do, we will be doing a giveaway. Be in a chance to win some Horizon Aircraft merch. Make sure to bang the subscribe button. Also, hit the like while you're at it. You're out there anyway, so just do it anyway. Dylan says, hover wings are something I could see on a plane that will fly out of a major airport. Not as different to the eyes as other eVTOLs as the clothes over the fans. That's the thing that really struck me, and I think that Brandon sort of hit on it because he said that you're an aerospace engineer, so you'll probably agree with him, where airplanes seem to look a certain way.
They do.
And the Cavorite, well, it's the Cavorite X5 at the moment, but really the Cavorite X7 does look like an airplane. Where the likes of Joby and Archer look a little bit unusual, don't they?
It's just different. You can look at the Marine Corps' Offspring. It's got these enormous rotors that those rotors can't be forward facing in landing. That thing has to land as a helicopter or land.
Can it not land?
It cannot, no, because the rotors would hit the ground. It has to convert. So, that thing flying through the air, it looks kind of weird, but it still works. So it's not like it's and that's the beauty of engineering, is there's all sorts of different possibilities. Brandon did speak to the difference between HOVR and the in-wing lift fans.
Yeah.
And when everything closes up and it's in wing-borne flight, that thing is flying like an airplane. Where you hear other people talk about the flight control system on Joby, that if the thing were to hit wing gusts, those are always kind of moving. They're not just locked in place when you're in wing-borne flight. You'll get into some flight condition and the wing needs a little bit more lift. Okay, let's vector this up just a little bit, just to give a little.
And
bit
what would that feel like inside the aircraft?
You wouldn't really feel it at all. I don't think you'd feel it because it's compensating for just where the wing is not going to be able to produce lift.
Okay.
So you can have sensors in the wing. You can have a pressure sense. You can have pressure sensors on the top and bottom. You can actually measure. It's called angle of attack, and it's the angle of the wing relative to the wind. And if that pressure starts changing, then it's changing your angle of attack, or it's actually changing your just your lift profile, how much lift the wing is producing. So you could tie that, I'm sure the flight controls are tied into those sensors and stuff. So it's just, you wouldn't feel it though. It would actually make for a smoother ride. Oh, yeah. But to Brandon's point, it's, those things are always moving. So those are failure points. Those are all failure points. He also said, if you had a blade off situation, what happens if you have a blade off and now you're going to have an enormous amount of vibration. You're going to have to shut that thing down as soon as possible. And if a blade flew off and then flew into the rest of the airplane,
all God.
Of those are, it's called a cascading effect. You have a single point of failure that'll cascade and it takes out the other blades. That's a bad day. Where with the Cavorite X7, all your lift fans are closed up. They're just hanging out. They're not doing anything in wing-borne flight. You just have your aft pusher moving you through the air.
And is it just a propeller on the back that
it's just a propeller? Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes simplicity is
Oh yeah,
the master.
Yeah, we have a phrase in engineering. It's keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
So it's just the
Look,
more simple
you've done it again. I'm going to call you out in the middle of the live stream. I said Mark has this ability to just say something funny, but he keeps a straight face as he says it and just keeps carrying on. And I'm like, half the time I can't cope. So I'm just going to call him out there on it.
Yeah.
VCNC says, have either of you guys seen the Aero EVTOL? It's like a polar opposite of HOVR's design. I haven't. Do a deep dive on it if you want, my guy.
What was it called? I'll look it up.
Aero, so AIRO. I can even see if I can get it up on screen there. VCNC says, I'll bet dollars to donuts that the aft props were the reason for that over acquisition for the blade tilt patents. Let me see if I can get Aero up. Oh my god.
AIRO?
Yeah, it looks a little bit like a cross between.
It's a helicopter. Okay. Let me look at this thing here.
But there's so many different ones. Let me.
Well, first off, it's not a counter-rotating propeller, so they got to have some way to keep the thing from spinning.
I'm trying to get a decent picture for the guys.
Not really a fan because that blade, you're always going to be spinning that blade, which is a big drag. You're like, that thing could be cool, but you're never going to get above 150 miles an hour.
There we go, guys. That's what the Aero looks like. So what? That spins like a helicopter, and then that drives you forward, does it?
Most likely, yeah. But the problem you have is if you have that spinning, you need to have a tail rotor that's going to keep you from wanting to constantly spin around. It'd be interesting to see how they keep it from counter-rotating.
Ooh. Is that why they have back rotors on the?
Yes, yeah. Because you got to remember, for every like a propeller spinning through the air, that thing is creating, and if you've got and your craft is just, or the fuselage is hanging below it. If you just have a propeller spinning, that thing's going to want to start spinning with it. So that's why you have a side propeller. Your tail rotor is always keeping you, from going from, spinning out.
So that's why if that fails at the back, why the helicopter?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Like you see movies where, the tail boom fails and then the thing just starts spinning like crazy and falls to earth. But you can also have counter rotating. So you can completely do away with a tail rotor if you have two rotors, one going one way and another one on top of it going the opposite way. Yeah, that counteracts that that.
But again, failure on one rotor will.
And Brandon said today, he's like, helicopters are amazing craft, but they're really expensive to maintain because they have a lot of single points of failure. If one thing fails in the rotor system, it's going to be a really bad day. You have no options. Where with with an airplane, if you lose your engine or the prop flies off, or there's some failure within the power plant itself, you're then just a glider. You may not be an efficient glider, but you still have options. So, and then you start looking for a landing zone to hopefully come down and land. And then to add to it, now with a hover, say you do lose your thrust, your PT6 fails or something, and now you're going to glide down. But the one thing that kills everybody in anything is speed. It's that sudden 90 miles an hour to zero. that'll kill you, right? Just
Yep.
go jump off your roof and it hurts. Because Mother Earth is very
You've done it again.
Because Mother Earth is very unforgiving. So in a hover aircraft, you could be gliding down to your glide point and be like, all right, there's a postage stamp, there's a small field, or there's just a parking lot, and you can kick on your fans and bleed off all that speed and then just set on down, and then everyone just gets out. Call your insurance company, right? That's the beauty of these aircraft, and it's particularly hover. Now, Joby and ACHR also will demonstrate this too. They're going to demonstrate. They've demonstrated failures on their fans, and yes, we can have a failure. We failed 2 fans. The other fans compensate because there's lift margin, and they can still go and land. So,
and
all
do
of
they
them
need to be able to continue the flight while that's happening, or do they just need to be able to land safely?
That I don't know.
Okay.
If you lost a rotor, if there was a very large mechanical failure, you're probably going to want to get it down as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But that's part of testing. I mean, that's engineering testing. That's why flight test is fun, because you go and you break stuff and you see how the aircraft responds to it, and then you actually build flight profiles of, if this happens, then you as the pilot can do this. You can continue, or no, you should get down pretty quickly.
Guys, I will jump back to the comments here. I just want to ask a selfish question here. Have you ever had a engine failure in your plane?
I have.
Is it scary?
So, in the airplane that you're looking at right now, the cockpit that I was in, it wasn't a full engine failure. It was a partial engine failure. So that's just a piston, a 4-cylinder piston engine.
Okay.
And one of I was leaving North Carolina. It was a beautiful sunny Sunday, and took off. Was climbing probably through about 3,000, 4,000 feet. Had the autopilot on. My passenger was, putting her head back, about to fall asleep. And then all of a sudden, just immediately, like everything starts shaking so bad, I can't see the instrument panel. And immediately it's just like, okay, what happened? Pull the power back, turned around, got pointed back at the airport. And then as a pilot, you immediately start diagnosing, okay, what's wrong? I'm looking at my engine monitoring system, and okay, my difference in cylinder head temperatures is like 300 degrees. So it's telling me that one of them has completely dropped off. At least one of them has dropped off. So, and in, an airplane like this, it's like, okay, did I just break a valve? So now the pit, it's, and it's kind of backfiring. So in my mind, I thought I had busted a valve on one of the cylinders, and the cylinder is just giving you no compression whatsoever. And now it's, the engine is not firing in a balanced way. Yeah. So it basically just turned around, immediately went back to the airport. I could still power, the engine didn't quit. And I just, I didn't declare an emergency, but I did declare, like, hey, if anybody's at the airport, get the hell out of the way, because I'm coming
coming in quick.
Yeah, and just came down and landed and was able to taxi the airplane off. And the cause of that event was, this is an experimental. So in the experimental world, you can do whatever you want to it. Yeah. In this airplane, when I bought it, it had a turbocharger, and I wasn't a big fan of it because I live on the East Coast. I don't need to go high. It's a lot of weight. It's one more thing to fail. So I was like, I'm just going to remove this whole system off. So I removed the turbo system off, and there was, if you understand how turbochargers work, you have, the air gets compressed, and then it goes into an intercooler, and then it goes into a box before it goes up into the or before it goes through the fuel servo, or what is considered like a carburetor, or whatever. Well, that box had a door on it. It had this door that could just like open and close based on pressure. And I didn't remove that door after I removed the turbocharger. And that door was able to just kind of flop around in there.
Yeah.
And over a long period of time, that door just broke off. Like the hinge just broke.
And just took all the air in.
And well, the hinge broke, and the hinge got sucked into the intake. And I suspect that piece of metal got sucked up into my engine, into the cylinder, because what had happened was I basically handed the airplane over to a mechanic and was like, "Tell me what's wrong with my airplane. Call me when you've got it figured out."
Yeah.
And a couple days later, he called me back and he said, "Well, your airplane's fine. We basically we bore scoped your engine. Your number 3 cylinder looks like the surface of the moon because it's just pocked. The cylinder head is completely pocked. The piston was completely just beat to hell. Like someone just took a ball peen hammer with it to it." And he's like, "It's not your valves or anything like that. Both your spark plugs were crushed shut. And that's what caused the cylinder to drop offline. And I basically probably pulled a piece of metal in there, and that thing just starts bouncing around. And over time, it's just law of averages. Statistically, that ball's going to hit one spark plug and crush it, and then over time, it's going to hit the other spark plug and crush it. And that's exactly what I suspect happened. And
I need to ask the most important question, though.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of poo come out when?
No. So the funny story is, after we were, I guess you could say debriefing, right? Like my woman I was dating at the time, who actually became my wife, and is now my ex-wife, but a very good friend of mine. We're talking about it after the fact, and she's like, "At what point did you realize we were going to be okay?" And I was like, pretty much by the time we got the plane turned around and I could see the airport, we had altitude, the engine wasn't shutting off, we weren't on fire. I was like, "Yeah, we're good. We're just going to go back and land." And she was like, "You mother effer, you could have told me that." She was like, "You could have told me that because I thought we were going to die until, we got over the numbers and actually touched down." I was like, "Yeah, I probably should have said something. Sorry." I was a little
Mate, when we get in your plane, my God, you are briefing me. If something goes wrong, you're briefing me straight away.
All right. Yeah, I'll tell you. So,
my God. Talking about Mark and flying, he was invited up by Brandon himself and Dylan. Going to make an appearance at some stage up just outside Toronto. It is.
Yeah, it's Hamilton.
That'll be exciting. I'm actually jealous. I can't wait to see that. I want to give a big shout out to Matan. So Matan has a EVTOL channel.
Yes, and has interviewed Brandon.
He'll be joining us Sunday on EVTOL Fan Club. So it'll be quite exciting. He interviewed Brandon himself. So any of the guys that haven't seen that interview, make sure to jump across and see that. That actually got us fired up for our interview.
It was a great interview, Matan. Yeah, great job.
I can see a lot of you guys calling for the Grizzly short report. We can run through it. The only thing is, Dylan's not here, and I kind of wanted Dylan here for this. But you know what? We'll go through it quickly. And I've just read the top of it because when I was reading through it, I didn't see Nicola in it. I wish Reese was here for that because he invested in Nicola very early on and he got stung very, very badly. But yeah, we'll bring up the short report now, guys. We'll get through it quickly, but I want to do a video with Dylan and Mark, maybe a pre-recorded one. We could break down the short report. I have noticed lately that some of you guys love these live streams. We talk through the comments, you steer our stream, but then I'm getting feedback from other people that they just want the facts. So I want to do a perfect medium. I want to create more short form content like we used to do at the very start. That way, any of you guys that are only interested in the facts, we hit you there and then. We're not going to stop our live streams. We're going to keep doing our live streams. I enjoy them. I think it's a great way to build a community. And also, make sure to jump into the comments and any stock at all you want reviewed. I'm doing mini deep dives. They're about 2 minutes long. I'm putting them out through shorts at the moment. I dropped 3 of them there. Yeah, but now getting into the short report. So, any of you that weren't aware, Grizzly Research did do a short report. Dylan was actually the one that notified me this. He put it up on X. He did then do a bit of research into Grizzly Research, and Grizzly themselves are under a lawsuit at the moment. So, look, it's sometimes good to dive into your shorts and see who's actually writing the report. Don't just take everything verbatim. But just getting into some of the bullet points. ACHR Aviation has built a reputation as a leading publicly traded eVTOL company through misleading projections and PR. Reminiscent of Nicola's tactics. I think they're just pulling Nicola in because they know what they're like. Their in-depth analysis conducted with eVTOL engineers scrutinized all major players and finds ACHR's midnight aircraft fundamentally flawed and likely uncertifiable. Mark, they're at that stage. Like, can't they fix their problems? Yes, the midnight at the moment is uncertifiable, but like if it was certifiable right now, they'd be certified. So
yeah, well, if it takes time to certify an aircraft and it takes a design effort, if they don't have anything to substantiate why it is not certifiable, I suspect obviously they have a big benefit if their stock goes down. So, I'm going to take this with a real big case of bias.
Yeah.
ACHR's got plenty of market cap to fix any problems that they have.
Yeah, when I read this short report, it was actually after I read the Culpa one. I think I sort of take all these short reports with a pinch of salt. ACHR didn't really take much of an effect today. I don't think they'll be too worried about it, but because you guys want us to cover it. Site visits to ACHR's state-of-the-art Covington, Georgia manufacturing facility in June, July, and August 25 showed little to no production activity. This comes despite claims of current production, along with current scaling to production of 50 aircraft per year and the final goal of 650 aircraft per year support from Stellantis. I think 650 was towards the end of the decade, I believe.
I thought so as well, yeah.
50 aircraft per year, but there's no point in them producing 50 aircraft that they can't certify. Aren't they going to wait for their final design before they start pushing out aircraft?
That's exactly right. Yeah, they've got to have a type conformed aircraft. They got to have 4 or 5 of them to go through their TC program. I think the short report is just is early. It's if
I knew we'd just be able to break it down like we done with the Culpa report.
Yeah, if we're 2 years, if it's 2 years from now and they've not made any progress, then yeah, this report would be very valid. But you're not going to go build 50 aircraft right now because you've got to get through a type certification program. You'll start seeing them slowly as they get further into TC, which is going to be next year. Then they will start ramping up their production. They could theoretically have 10 to 20 aircraft that are type conforming and will get its airworthiness certificate the day they get TC. But you need to first you got to go through that test. You got to do that exam. You got to get qualified. So as for the Covington, Georgia factory not having a lot of activity, well, that you're not going to have a lot of activity yet until you have a need to go into full rate production. So
I think you've hit the nail on the head with, look, it's always going to be a bias report. They benefit by the stock going down. Look, short-term traders and investors may move out of Archer with any sign of bad news. Any long-term investor will be able to look through this like a sheet of glass. Archer's $6 billion order book is inflated with questionable and fraudulent commitments. Shatu's memorandum of understanding for 100 midnights valued up to 500 million is implausible. The UAE operator, with only one helicopter purchased in November 23, lacks the scale of capital. I'd be very careful saying that the UAE, anyone in the UAE, is short of capital.
Well, not only that, it's a memorandum of understanding. A memorandum of understanding is not a contract for aircraft. It's, hey, if you produce this, we will then buy them. So even with the Delta order for Joby or the United commitments that United has made for Archer, all of that is going to be a function of, well, you need to get type certification first, then we'll put money in the game. So then we will start doing pre-sales and whatnot. So it's in 10 years when there's the next version of an Archer coming out, because Archer has been successful and they will be successful. Then companies may say, yes, we'll take pre-orders on your next aircraft because you've proven you can do what you can do. That's what, Gulfstream won't do a new aircraft program until they have 150 to 200 pre-sale orders. Like, they've got people lined up and waiting. And the same thing for Bombardier. You're not going to go embark on a huge program like that. But those are, companies that have been in the industry and have proven technology and have a customer base and all that. So these growth stocks and these emerging markets, it's a little bit of a riskier play, but your upside is going to be, much higher as well. And
oh my God, we have Dylan.
Hello. Hey, before my son comes busting in, I just got.
We'll have him join us if he does.
Oh, hey, you guys are the best. And I didn't want to be the Archer bull that all of a sudden was absent for the second short report in a row. But no, y'all been doing amazing. It's so cool to listen to y'all on the car ride home. Y'all made the drive so much easier.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Dylan. Then jumping into the next part, Future Flight Global's up to 116 midnight order is tied to a shell company with no operational track record. That is not Archer's fault. If they have an order for up to 116, whether it's with a shell company with no operational track record, look, if I'm selling a car and look, if I'm selling, I don't know, 50 cattle in a mart, if someone comes to me and says they're buying 50 cattle and they have no track record of farming and look, they don't seem to have money, if they've put the order in, well, that's not my problem. So I think that's a bit out there. Kakao Mobility 50 aircraft commitment fell apart after Archer failed to deliver for a Q4 2024 demo in Korea. Yet order remains included in the backlog. Well, fair enough. Right, they can tick the box on that one. I have no counter to that.
This is a results-based game. So when you start selling results, then you're going to see more and more people getting on board. And I'm not saying that Archer's not selling results, because they are. I think Archer's just a little bit behind. And of course, if you're a little bit behind, you may obviously someone with a short position is going to start picking on the guy that's lagging, right? If you got someone what do they say? In the Serengeti, you don't need to be the fastest runner. You just don't want to be the slowest runner, because you're going to be eaten first. So,
well, look, put it this way: 4 of us in that interview with Brandon, if one of us didn't produce, the comments would have eaten one of us apart.
Yes, yeah.
So it's the same thing. Then, US Air Force, up to 148 million Agility Prime contract, has only awarded 33 million with just 744,000 dispersed and 110 firm fixed portion delivered only 1.3 million in awards so far. I'd have to dive into that and actually have a look. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the agility these programs are where the military comes out. A lot of times they'll do it through DARPA, because DARPA is pretty much the playground for the development of new weapon systems. They get a lot of funding every year, and they're basically sending out seed money. And Agility Prime was kind of a concept demonstrator. Hey, here's money to all these different companies. So they may have announced, hey, this is a $200 million purse, but that purse is going to get distributed to the different, to a whole series of different companies that can then use that seed money to go and build out their technology more.
Then, Archer's UAE launch edition was nothing more than a staged hover at the photo op location, using an obsolete aircraft recycled for marketing. The choice of revenue, lack of real test data, and diversion of scarce engineering resources all underscored this was a PR stunt, not a meaningful step towards certification or commercialization. The company also claimed to have delivered the first Midnight aircraft there, yet they remain the sole owner of the aircraft that has now supposedly been delivered 2 times. Fair play. Do you know what? Sometimes you have to do a few tricks in it.
Yeah,
well, and I think that's throwing out the salesman in Adam, and again, either good or bad, you kind of have to read his words for what they are. And the delivery of the aircraft, did the aircraft hit the ground in UAE? Yes. Did it get sold to the UAE? No. So is it a little bit of wool over the eyes for, the maybe pop in and out Archer investor? Yeah, those words can seem a little bit shady, so I can nod to them on that. But I don't think in any way Archer necessarily said we have sold our first aircraft to the UAE.
It wouldn't make me sell out my position, put it that way.
And it's my understanding too, it was by request that they hover in front of a landmark. They wanted to see that flying just in front of a landmark.
Archer's recent defense pivot is a desperate attempt to stay in the race, but the company lacks the resources and capacity to be a credible player in that field. Now, to be fair, look, I did have questions why all of a sudden that big push for defense, but look, they all seem to be doing it now at this stage. Yeah. I don't think it's a desperate attempt to stay in the race. I think it is another string to their bow. Yeah, I actually think it could be. I put it out on X earlier. I think it's a good way of them generating revenue until they actually get their full-scale rollout going. I'm actually more bullish at the same time that this defense has taken place now that I've actually properly digested it and see that they can actually obtain revenue quicker than trying to roll out all these air taxis pretty quickly. I think defense in the medium term will create a lot more revenue.
I think it's a strategic move. There's billions of dollars sitting there. You're just going to let your competitor take it all? No, you're going to compete.
But if on the short report, say now Joby gone into defense. If Archer hadn't gone into defense, it'd be on the short report that they're lagging behind Joby. So
that's right. Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna leave that there because I don't think there's much material to it. We've just dove through some of the highlights there, and I really don't think it's nothing to worry about. Dylan, I want to hit on you. What was your key takeaway from the Horizon aircraft?
Actually, it was incredibly insightful. I think it gave great perspective on what the industry could and can and possibly will be, and also the different use case variations on all these different aircraft. And not a knock on Joby, it kind of made me start to distinguish what are these aircraft. To me, Joby might be a little bit more in the helicopter market. we have a kind of hybrid version, almost the airplane slash helicopter, which is going to be the current version of the Midnight right now, with other designs still to come for the defense. And then you have Horizon, who, yes, can hover, but ultimately is really kind of closing those wings. And again, is going to be an airborne flight, flying like an airplane for 98% of the time.
Yeah.
So that was actually a nice kind of, hey, y'all. Hello, all. So,
This is how real this podcast is.
Yeah, let him join. Bring him on in here. Come on.
Hey, all right. This is my friend, my kid's friendo, and that's my kiddo
okay.
on the back.
Oh, how are we
they
doing,
live.
guys?
They're doing great. They're doing great. Give me like 5 minutes, guys. I'll be out. But yeah, Horizon, though, it actually, I really ended up really enjoying the design and the simplicity, and the way Brandon said that his transition was actually going to be basically boring. You know, it was just to see basically the wing flaps come and cover up the fan blades, you know, and then go ahead and you'll be flying like an airplane. And then also the regional flights, I think, is a key. So actually, when I came out of that, I was kind of thinking again back to what it's like when I'm, you know, on my commercial airliner, kind of taxiing on the runway. It seems like every seat I'm in, you can kind of get a view of the wing, and that's what you're looking at, and kind of see the flap go up and down. So again, just kind of for that like comfortability and adaptability to a market, and kind of being able to get a commercial market around any of these companies, you know, you have to have the commercial adoption. And so for me, on a visual site, you know, I think HOVR really has a very nice design with that wing and fan blades going on. Sorry, I got the noise in the background. But the wings and the fan blades going on. And it's really cool to see what their 50% model has already been able to accomplish. And again, I think the regional travel is something that neither Archer or Joby has spoke about. Yeah. And again, with him also speaking to, he's not really looking to operate, I believe it's as the OEM, but these are going to be, I believe he said multiple times, leased out. So that was also an interesting piece that I took as well. So it'd be interesting to see the revenue generating, the ability to generate revenue on the different time span of the leases, and who he starts to attract in to be partners and start to sign on and be the early adopters of his aircraft. But yeah, it was kind of eye-opening for the industry, and kind of helped me separate apart also from the other two major players, kind of what their use cases are, what their designs could be used for. Definitely, he was talking about the hydrogen powertrain. It was a lot, and it was really honest. And for all that don't know, when I watched it back, it was a one-cut interview. You know, I don't think you cut any question, any answer out. You know, anything Brandon had to think about. And and also, not to be too big on the Archer Bull, but when he was talking about the CTOL, and that being kind of like a critical part of his test plan. So. Yeah. Okay, I'm the Archer Bull, so I'm going to go back and try to validate Archer doing a CTOL flight with their Midnight. You know, obviously we need the VTOL, but again, his constant words of testing the data gathering, and then again, just all the areas and points I spoke on earlier, I think not only just bring me confidence in his company, but again, that this industry, and no pun intended, can truly take off.
Yeah, and to add to your comment about the CTOL, flying in a CTOL configuration, it says in their 10K that their mission profile, if they're in a straight hover, they plan to lift 1,500 pounds. You have a 1,500 pound useful load. If they're in a CTOL configuration, so you're just going to fly this thing like an airplane, or in a STOL, which is short takeoff, so you're probably using your lift fans for a little bit, but you're still going down a runway and you can get off really, really quickly. Then that max takeoff weight goes up to, I think it was like 1,850 pounds. So, you know, again, this is where this is where Brandon, being a fighter pilot, is looking at all the different use case scenarios, because that's what fighter pilots do. Think about it, like, oh, we have to go do a mission. We have to go so far. Okay, we can only take this amount of gas, or we can take only this amount of armament. Right? Or are we going to refuel? Like, all of these things he is now being able to use those type of skill sets and move them into what is the most ideal craft that we can use. So yeah, you'll see this thing used as just a CTOL probably a lot.
I love that you said Dylan there, because I'm telling you, I forgot to say this in the middle of the interview. The amount of times I nearly called Brandon Mark, and it's because you're like the Bible. Anytime I want information, I'm like, Mark, what do you think about this? And the amount of times I nearly called Brandon Mark, and I was like, imagine doing that to a CEO, my guy. So I'm happy I didn't. But then I don't know, did any of you guys pick up on it? And look, it's not something to be bullish in the short term on, but in the long term, if Horizon succeeds, there was something I really picked up on when Mark and Brandon were joking around about flying the Cavra X7. And Brandon hinted that he does have a design for a personal hybrid aircraft. And then it kind of made me think that that is where the market's going. Like, prove the concept of these air taxis, you are going to get these hybrid VTOLs or eVTOLs when it comes to Archer and Joby entering the market. And the fact that he already has the design, they're a player in that space too.
Yeah.
It does excite me, the whole Horizon project. I said, guys, I don't normally invest in micro caps. They don't interest me in the slightest normally. I think they're a bit of a gamble. But Mark said that at the very start. Not financial advice at all, but look, 70 million market cap. These could 100x. I know one of you guys, you might be in the comments there. I put it up on X earlier, and one of you guys said to me, it could 100x and only be 7 billion. And that's where I was like, we need to have a long-term position just sitting there in them.
Yeah, we should do a bigger deep dive too into what this could look like just from a financial standpoint. Because Brandon came out and said, I think at one point he said the sales price will be about 10 million a piece.
Yep.
Which is half of what a helicopter is, a military helicopter. So you look at, at $10 million a piece, you sell 100 of them. That's $1 billion. So,
zero. Yeah.
you can start getting $1 billion contracts, because you look at the military, especially when the military, we can save you this much money, or you can double your order. Military contracts, it's a lot of money when they become program of records.
Well, that's what excited me about when they said they could sell to the US military, they could sell to the own Canadian military. They're talking to.
They could sell to NATO directly.
Yeah.
They could just sell to NATO directly. They don't necessarily, there's so many different use cases. And I was thinking about it as well, the ambulance use case. Having this thing as an air ambulance and where you can fly 300 miles, because there's a lot of instances, especially in Canada. A logger working way up in the forest gets injured and has to get to a Trauma 1 medical center in Toronto, or oil worker needs to get to a Trauma 1 center in Edmonton.
We have them over here.
A Joby or an Archer isn't going to get you there, but a HOVR will. Well, think about it. If you're 200 miles away, and time is everything in that respect. So this thing will do 250 miles per hour compared to a helicopter, pissing along at 130.
We get it a lot over here. Look, I'm on the West Coast, right, and it's really rural. And yes, we have a hospital about 15 minutes away or so. But any major thing, so a major cardiac arrest, or if there's a bad traffic accident, or
burnt, you're badly burned.
Yeah, anything like that, you have to go to Dublin. So they airlift them there. So they have to wait for the only helicopter round here is the Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard comes and brings them across. But Dublin from where I am now is easy, 250 mile. So if you had the likes for HOVR, you'd get there way quicker. Plus, it's much cheaper, much safer.
And it's all weather. And it's all weather.
Oh, they need that over here.
So you have the right to jack yourself up on a foggy day, and this thing will still come pick you up.
I thought you were about to say something else. I thought, what are you coming out with? Guys, make sure you smash the like button. I want to double check where we're at the moment. One thing I've been really pushing lately is the likes, because for every one like we get, it shows us up 10 more people. You guys as a community help us grow. The more we grow, we meet people like Matan. We'll bring Matan on. We'll go and bring in on Travis. So let's talk Joby. Oh, there was a miscommunication there between. So I was hoping to get Travis on today. No, I speak Eastern time to all these guys. So I think even you guys, I speak Eastern time to.
Mm-hmm.
Pacific time.
He's Pacific time, yeah.
Oh, there you
go. So it was gonna be something like 2:00 in the day. He was working. So we're gonna try and get him on Sunday. That could be a nice one. Matan and Let's Talk Joby on it. I'm gonna have to see how StreamYard works. I might have to do it every time he speaks. They go big like Brandon was, but that'd be quite nice. Another eVTOL creator, we have iMan OS. Seems to be like we're growing a nice community here. Your friend Terry says, will an eVTOL be able to touch down on a ship? Watch a helicopter lower a stretcher got me thinking. Is there certain types of certification you need out at sea? No.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure anything that touches a ship, it's up to the captain. But obviously in military and naval operations, it's happening all the time. I think, a hover could do that all day long, or a Joby or Archer could as well.
Dylan, did you add to your position in Horizon? Are you waiting for anything, or are you just keep doubling down on Archer at the moment?
All right, so I'll be honest. Not a man of many monies, but the monies that I do have to invest, I did pause on Archer, even though I'm very interested in the share point. I'm sorry, the price point, the price point of the shares right now. For me, not financial advice, it would still be a buy range for me. At what I predict end of year to be at about $12.50 to $13. But no, to answer your question, it was Hover I went with. So looking to kind of diversify in the eVTOL space a little bit. So yeah, started in Hover, and I think for me, and again, just for me, I need to keep in mind that just as Brandon spelled out, this is a 18 to 24 month roadmap. If they get infused capital, that could help speed up that timeline as well. And for me not to be the impatient investor, and with the dollars I have, go ahead, invest in where I see best fit, on the market days at that time. But yeah, it brought a lot of confidence for me to the company New Horizon and to the stock Hover. Not just based on just talking to the CEO, the transparency of the CEO, but honestly, I've done so much studying on Archer. My head's been really, really full of midnight. So to kind of step out of that and look at the New Horizon aircraft and really look at the features. And again, when he was talking about how, again, his transition is very boring, but you have a lot of these other companies that are kind of sweating out their transition as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, to the look. So yeah, to long story long, did open a position on Hover. Yeah, and I'm looking to hold that, and we'll keep adding to it in the times that we can.
Oh mate, if we get 100x, we're going partying with Brandon, my guy. Then iMan OS says, I'm very impressed with how low money in research and development and company expenses Hover achieved so much compared to Joby and Archer. They have 17 million in cash versus 1.4 billion Archer and 900. Them figures right. I thought it was 1.7 billion Archer.
True. Yeah, maybe just a mistype on that. I think it is 1.7, but no, it was shocking to hear that he was so confident with the 17 million, able to take him to the finish line. So for me, it's a sense of
17
like,
million is going to take you to your concept demonstrator. It's not going to take you. Not going to take you through certification.
And so, you know, it did make me kind of just curious at the confidence that he has. So not a knock on Brandon, but it was almost, again, I look at, you know, for me, Archer and Joby as well, who has, you know, times the chunk of money that they have. And for me, it's a little bit of the question of, well, what are we doing? Where's the spend on that money? You know, just keeping it in the high yield savings account to get 5% on it? Or, you know, are we going to continue to do some acquisitions, maybe some mergers, something to help out your company, speed up your timeline in that certification process if possible, while you're still waiting to get that launch edition revenue, or for Joby maybe to get some of the Blade revenue, you know, through that acquisition through the door as well. So yeah, it's very interesting to hear that Brandon feels confident with that number, and that's awesome that he feels confident with that number there.
Yeah, I think it all sort of hinges on the actual business model of all these companies. You have to look at like sort of Joby and Archer, and I think Brandon kind of hit on this. Joby and Archer are trying to not only build and create a new type of aircraft, a new way of traveling, but they're also trying to create a service as well. So they have their research and development in all the infrastructure, in the apps. They're planning on a major scale up for the whole business to work. So the likes of the Covington, Georgia factory, like there's so much that they've had to plow money into. You also have to think Horizon is so early doors compared to the likes of Archer and Joby. So I think that's where the
well, and I might have mentioned it to you guys before, but what I think is really cool about talking with Brandon now is, to me, it's almost like if you were able to talk to Joe Ben in 08, 09, if you were able to talk to Adam, you know, or his engineering team in about 2020, you know, year before, year after, and just kind of gauge their confidence and their vision and their dream of the company and where they were at in those stages. So again, that's why I kind of was curious with Brandon if he felt like, you know, as he did give nod to kind of the early movers in this industry, kind of paving a way, you know, a lot of the designs and kind of weeding through those, and really seeing what design can come to fruition in this space and actually be an operable aircraft. It's an exciting time to see the transitions, but like you say, for the other companies who are looking to really redesign a whole city around their company, I mean, that's a big ask. That's a big take on. You know, we're not only looking for FAA, you're going to need, you know, whatever country that you're operating in to also get the local municipalities to be on board with your vertiports, with your networks as well. So right now, I'm okay with selling the aircraft. You know, let's sell the aircraft until we get to maybe 2028, 2030, when a vertiport is a true thing that the city planner is looking to develop into their reconstruction or design of a city. So yeah, for right now, as long as we can get an aircraft that can cert through whichever organization or administration or Federal Aviation Administration that would want to be a buyer of that aircraft, for me right now, let's manufacture what we can and let's get some early revenue through the door and to the defense. Yeah.
Guys, make sure on Sunday, check us out. We will have Matan on. Matan had a really nice interview with Brandon, so do make sure to check him out. We're hopefully going to have Let's Talk Joby. TB Travis will be coming on with us. But guys, what I want to say is, I'm going to be dead honest. I have a second stream to go to. I know Mark has some flying to do, and Dylan definitely has some kids to look after.
That's right. I got a young boy to go hug, but I rushed to y'all first because I was like, I can't miss this.
Give up his firstborn for us.
Yeah, I did. I literally did. I gave him a big hug though before I saw y'all.
But guys, my name's Liam. I am one of the host bros here with my two other brothers, Mark and Dylan. As always, guys, really enjoyed it. Look, we'll look around 4:15 again.
Sounds great. Yep.
Love it.
All good, my guys. Until Sunday, we'll see you then. Guys, do check out Rocket Lab Fan Club in about 15 minutes. Right, guys, we'll see you.